Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You know, Ray, I need to give away some tickets here to the Western Idaho Fair this hour, so we will do that. We'll give away a family 4-pack between now and 8:20. Just when I give you the cue to call, caller 10, please, and it'll just be call in to win tickets to go to the fair for free, right? That sounds great. Joining us now from Junk Science is Steve Malloy. Steve, good morning.
Hey, Kevin, it's great to be here.
Great to have you with us here. So you've worked with the president. You've worked with the transition team. You know what's going on. Your thoughts before we get to fuel emission standards and everything else on how the president's doing, because if you listen to the media, we certainly get alt reality.
Well, I think the president's doing a great job. Look, the country's been going in the wrong direction for, more than 40 years now, almost 50 years. And it's going to take some time to turn the ship around, and it's going to be ugly, and it's going to be messy. And so people just have to sit tight, stay the course.
I'm with you, and I agree with you, but then you've got everybody flipping out about Cohen, about Manafort. As someone who has, been to the show, you know the man, your thoughts on the great job he's doing that doesn't get reported, sir?
Well, he is doing a fantastic job now. I work mostly on environmental issues, and I can tell you that he is the only Republican president to take on the deep state at EPA and to, start requiring good science over there. And so I think he's doing a fantastic job.
Well, that is great. Let's talk a little bit about junkscience.com, all the junk that's fit to debunk. First and foremost, global warming.
Well, so this has been a hot issue for about, no pun intended, for about 20 years now. The Greens have been making predictions about, climate doom for 30 years. None of them have ever been correct. It's a very complex issue, a lot of science, politics, economics. There's a myriad different agendas at work. And the bottom line is, there's no evidence that the world is going to hell anytime soon. Because of carbon dioxide. And, you just got to be aware of all the different people out there and their different agendas. And, certainly people that sell fossil fuels, they want to make money, but so do solar and wind guys. And the environmentalists have their own political agenda. So you got to balance all that kind of stuff.
Well, it wasn't balanced under Obama. Coal was almost outlawed.
Well, yeah. And, I worked in the coal industry during the Obama administration, and I can tell you that he did everything he could to destroy the coal industry, and he basically wiped out about 94% of the market value of the coal industry, forced the biggest companies into bankruptcy. And, of course, that's what he promised to do as candidate Obama, and he delivered.
Being in that bubble, what was it like?
Well, it was,
I'm a fan of coal. Most of us have grown up with coal, and you take a look at the folks in the South and the Midwest, and that fuels their electricity.
Yeah, it was really frightening to see what a committed coal opponent was willing to do, which was anything and everything to destroy the industry, come hell or high water. And I'm just glad that now we have a president who's equally committed to reverse that. President Trump yesterday has proposed, a specific plan to get rid of Obama's Clean Power Plan, which was targeting at eliminating coal-fired power plants. A couple weeks ago, President Trump proposed to roll back President Obama's fuel economy standards for cars, which were going to force people into smaller cars, more dangerous cars, electric cars, cars that people don't want, and make them pay more money for them. So, on top of that, throw in that President Trump took us out of the Paris Climate Agreement. The Obama climate legacy is gone now, except that there's a lot of harm that has already been incurred. That maybe time will heal that.
Let's talk a little bit about the fuel standards, because when Obama came out with those, I thought they were absurd at the time, and that he would just mandate this and everybody would be driving a Prius.
Yeah, so in 2012, President Obama basically ordered that fuel standard, or fuel economy standards, be doubled by the year 2025. And the car makers went along with it because, well, they had just been bailed out by the Obama administration. In fact, were owned by the Obama administration. And I guess they hoped that, in 2025, when they failed to meet the standards, they beg for mercy. That the technology to meet standards never existed. It was all done in the name of global warming. And of course, if you do the simple math, those fuel economy standards would make no difference to atmospheric levels of carbon dioxide, and so no difference to temperature, even if you do believe the hysteria. So President Trump has decided to basically freeze that program, and we're gonna freeze mileage standards at basically current levels. And hopefully this will be the first step into getting rid of fuel economy standards altogether. It's not the 1970s anymore when these standards were first passed. There's no energy crisis. We're awash in oil. We don't need to be forced into smaller, more dangerous cars. We want cars to be more affordable so people can get into newer, safer cars. The average age of a car on the road today in the U.S. is 12 years. There's been a lot of safety improvements over the past 12 years. We want to encourage people to get into newer cars, and President Trump's rule changes is estimated to save consumers about $2,300 on a car. It's not bad. The rule is also going to save 1,000 lives a year by getting people into new cars. So it's a win-win for consumers and consumer choice.
Indeed. I just go back to what was the Obama administration thinking. When we look at them 10, 20 years from now, were they the most aggressive anti-business, pro-environmental folks that we've seen in recent history?
Yeah, there's no question about that. I mean, President Obama, I don't think it's any secret, was a very much a lefty. He was not some centrist, middle of the road. We just need a little bit of regulation. Or he was one of these guys, just like Hillary Clinton. The government needs to be in charge of everything and tell everybody what to do. It's just a form of totalitarianism, and they brooked no dissent. They mowed right through the coal industry. Thousands of miners lost their jobs. Their communities were damaged. All the supporting businesses, and all for no gain, no point. The environment was not improved. The climate was not improved. It was just an exercise in political power, and I think people are going to look back on that and condemn that.
Indeed. Let's talk about your book, Scare Pollution, because that's really what it seems to be these days. We're all scared. The tsunamis are going to wipe us out. If not, the Dust Bowl's coming back. It seems to be quite an industry.
Right. Well, my book is about the massive scientific fraud sponsored by the Environmental Protection Agency under Obama to destroy the coal industry. The EPA basically said that, scared people with the notion that 1 in 5 deaths in America every year is caused by air pollution. And so my book is my 20-year investigation of that claim, which was used to destroy the coal industry and used to support the Obama climate rules, and the exposure of that as utter scientific fraud. And it's really my personal experience and journey through the entire federal government, the court system, the universities, all in the effort to expose this fraud, which has cost the economy hundreds of billions of dollars.
Indeed. Where do you see us going 5 years from now? Again, hopefully the president will hang in there.
Yeah, well, it's hard to say. I'm hoping that the president does hang in there and he gets reelected. It's going to take a while to roll back all the damage that has been done, not just by the Obama administration, but by previous EPAs. And the EPA, was formed in 1970. One of its first major decisions was to ban the insecticide DDT, which wound up causing tens of millions of deaths around the world. And it's just been a disaster ever since, because you have these people in the agency, they think they know best. They don't have to work with anybody. They can just dictate, various environmental standards, and the economy will just adapt. And of course, in the beginning of the agency, that was kind of easy because there was a lot of low-hanging fruit. But, our environment was cleaned up by the 1990s, and everything since then has basically been overkill. I mean, the agency has not, just taken the win and gone away. It has, taken the win, said it was a loss, and demanded more over regulation. The whole thing's just crazy.
Indeed. One more thought. Steve Milloy with us, junkscience.com. Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. When you have, and business makes a lot of money, but when you have the might of the federal government, you're in their sights. What type of world is that? I mean, I watch Billions, but I mean, that's fiction, not fact here.
Yeah.
We're talking about a way of life, and going back to what you said about coal miners, which is one of the toughest jobs ever.
Right. So at its peak, the coal industry was worth about $65 billion. When Obama was done with it, it was worth about $4 billion. That's a loss of about 95%. And I know that the coal industry relied heavily on political contributions. They thought political contributions, Congress would save it. And that was just not the case. You cannot, this may be news to everybody, you cannot rely on a Republican Congress to save your bacon. It really did require President Trump to step in. A committed activist like President Obama will use every lever federal government has. And, keep in mind that progressives like President Obama had been capturing every institution in America, the universities, the courts, all the, think tanks and institutions and the entire regulatory bureaucracy. So they have quite quite a lot of power to implement what they want. And the coal industry was just not prepared for that. And that can come down at any time on any industry or anyone.
What world would it have been like if Hillary Clinton had won?
Well, I definitely think it would have been game over for coal. And EPA would just be spewing forth more and more, economy-crushing, economy-controlling regulations. I mean, you'll notice that since President Trump's been in office, the EPA has not issued any major regulations, and the world is still here, and our environment is still clean. The air, right?
Right.
So, I'm a conservative, no question about it, unapologetic. Progressives were going to destroy this country. I mean, they have a completely different goal, which is not America as we know it. So,
well, Steve, we appreciate it. Thank you for joining us. And
thank you, Kevin.
If people want more information, what can they do, sir?
You can follow me on Twitter at Junk Science. My website is junkscience.com, and my book, which is available on Amazon, is a bestseller, Scare Pollution, Why and How to Fix the EPA.
Steve, take care. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All
right, bye-bye. Great thoughts there. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Incredible job today. Thank you, Ray Amai, for putting this program together. And if you missed any part of this program, whether it's Dinesh D'Souza in the 6, whether it's Brigitte Gabriel in the 7, along with Kevin Skidmore, talking about this local situation involving Boise State, whether it's Steve Milloy, you just caught a little bit of that. You're like my neighbor who says, Kevin, I catch you from 8:15 to 9 o'clock. And by the way, what a nice young lady, has a lot of great things to say about the Meridian Canine Rescue. If you're looking for a four-legged furry family member or a great place to make a donation, you love animals like we all do, check those folks out on Facebook. They really do great work. And hello to Nate, who we met yesterday. He listens to the program as well. But if you miss any part of it, and you can catch it commercial-free, KIDOTalkRadio.com. You'll see kind of me with a goofy-looking face, as usual, and you can catch the show and the big newsmakers or some of the contributors that you've grown to know and love over the years. And those podcasts are usually up about after 10 at the latest, which is more than you get usually for a national show, which takes them like 6, 8, or 10 hours. Coming up next, we'll take a look at, President Trump and the coal industry. More importantly, this deal with Michael Cohen, Paul Manafort, why they're trying to get rid of our president. But first, caller 10 at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're going to win a family 4-pack to the fair, courtesy of your friends at KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you, Sean. Don't forget Glenn Beck after us. Congratulations to Ken in Meridian. Ken won the family 4-pack of tickets to the Western Idaho Fair. enjoy that. Please think of your friends, Kevin Miller, Ray Amaya, Glenn Beck, Dave Well, I'm sure if they could give you tickets, they would. Don't forget the Girls with Guns competition's heating up. This is our second round of voting. I think we're going to go from, 10 to 6, and that'll be our final round until the top 3 are selected. Thanks to our friends at Independence Indoor Shooting in Meridian, Idaho. One of those young ladies will win a gun safe or a weapon, a firearm, or a year's membership to Independence Indoor Shooting in Meridian, Idaho. So here we have it, the state of America in our beloved Idaho. Here we have the libs thinking they finally have the silver bullet to take down Donald Trump. And really, what does it say? Aren't they all bullies? Now, you have a certain kind of liberal. You have the friendly, sneaky liberal. You have the faux conservative liberal. Then you have the militant, all conservatives must blank liberal. I can almost respect them more than the sneaky, freaky other ones. So let's examine this for a minute. But first, traffic and weather together. It's 8:25 on KIDO Talk Radio.
That was Larry Gebert.
Larry, appreciate that. Going to be nice to have some cool temperatures coming up. Speaking of cool, Terrence from State College, Pennsylvania on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. And there we are with that Terrence nonsense. I don't know where you come up with that at.
Anything to entertain you and me.
It's just about you and me. That's right. I forgot. Anyway.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but good morning.
Good morning. I'm going to hit a tender spot with you here, but
oh, boy.
If Jeff Sessions were doing his job, the very people that are chasing Manafort and Cohen and all them, they're just as corrupt. And Cohen and Jeff Sessions would have had them nailed also. Now, believe me, Cohen, Manafort, if they broke the law, nail them. But you know what? Sessions, if he is absent, he is. I mean, we're not seeing anything. I mean, he's been doing a tremendous job. People probably don't know about these thousands and thousands of pedophiles that they've been getting. Absolutely hooray for that. But he's got to get that Department of Justice in gear, get it moving, and help the president clean out the swamp. You know that as well as I do. And by the way...
Well, let's get to Michael Cohen. Let's get to Paul Manafort. And Paul Manafort has made the biggest mistake of his life. He helps Trump get through the convention, was there for 100 days, was fired, was ripped, and now prosecuted. But first, you get to play the pundit here. We're going to play 2 spots from Lanny Davis, and then Terry, not to be confused with Terrence, on KIDO Talk Radio. You're going to respond. Here's first cut 1 from Lanny Davis.
He is a scary person, sometimes acts mentally scary. He certainly doesn't care about the truth. He has Giuliani saying truth is not always truth. And Mr. Trump lies and doesn't care he lies, knows his supporters, some of them, know that he's lying, and they don't care. And that's very, very dangerous, as Michael Cohen and many other people see.
That's a guy that was Bill Clinton and still is his best friend and was, I don't know if he was a boy toy, but he was Hillary Clinton's guy. Your thoughts?
Well, the thought of everything I just heard was absolute desperateness. They're desperate. I mean, man, Trump is right at their front door, and he's got it broken halfway down. I mean, they are scared to death, and rightfully so. They should be. And they're grasping at anything that they can, anything at all that gives them a little bit of what they will qualify as their own truth, so that they can spread it out and make a major issue out of it. Kevin, the swamp is out of control. I mean, they're running around like a bunch of rats. They're starting to eat each other. I mean, that's going to come next, but we the people are going to pay the price for that. And what end, I don't know, but that's what's scary.
Let's hear Lanny Davis cut 2. Rebuttal coming from Terry next.
Helsinki was a significant turning point as he worried about the future of our country, with the President of the United States aligning with somebody who everybody in his intelligence community who he appointed, including Dan Coates, said that Putin interfered and tried to help Trump get elected, and Trump is the only one left denying that, and that shook up Mr. Cohen.
Is Trump the only one left denying, or do you deny it?
I think Mr. Trump is doing what is necessary, and sometimes it's not living in denial, but avoiding certain truths that aren't as important as much, much bigger truths. And then if he goes too far into that, what's he going to have to do? He's going to have to say, listen, we can name off immediately 25 countries whose elections we have just been involved in. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be the president. No how, no way. I mean, I know there are those that think they can do it better, and I'll tell you what, they're living a very delusional life. Kevin, it's about America. You brought on two guests today that were absolute classic examples of what America is about. Neither one of them spoke what we call the perfect English. They both had the broken English. And they have seen the dream, they've seen the vision, they've utilized it, they've come over, they've made America great again.
And also, who would that be? Liberal Steve and Tea Party Bob?
Liberal Steve and Tea Party. I heard those two were getting an apartment together, but we don't want to talk about that over the air until it comes, come to fruition.
Now that's pure speculation on your part, sir. Hashtag fake news.
Oh, boing boing. No, Gabriel and Duesh, they've got, remember, we were fortunate enough, I guess, being east of the Great River, that we were in the melting pot of Europe and, the melting pot of the original portion of our civilization. And we've seen people from all over the world make something of themselves. And here we have two people who are adding to the greatness of this country. And, every once in a while I've got to be uptown and I've got to deal with somebody from around here that, I still call them, they're just illiterate rednecks. Oh, nobody should be moving to Idaho. Oh, come on, give it a rest. If we all felt that way in the rest of the country, you'd be stuck here forever. And I'm not coming down on anybody in particular, just people with a closed mind. Kevin, America is great because of people like them, like people like you, people like all of us. Anybody that has invested time into this country, they deserve at least one applaud. And if they're not giving it, then whoever's condemning them, because they've never done anything. Kevin, great show, and just your speakers today were phenomenal. And Tea Party Bob, we're going to miss you anyways. And Kevin, keep it up. You're running it well.
Terry, God bless. Take care, sir.
You have a good day.
You too. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. That's available on 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Kevin.
KIDO Talk Radio, Kevin Miller in the morning. From the White House to your house on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, your exclusive home for Fox News on the radio. Speaking of the White House, our great friend John Decker joins us now. Good morning, John.
Hey, good morning. How are you doing today, Kevin?
Boy, what a bombshell yesterday. A double whammy, if you will, for the president.
That's right. Two former aides to the president looking like they're going to be spending a few years in federal prison. We're talking, of course, about Paul Manafort, his former campaign chairman, who was found guilty of 8 counts yesterday by a jury in federal court in Alexandria. And also up in New York, his former personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, pleading guilty to 8 counts and implicating the president concerning one of those counts that he pled guilty to. So not a good day for the president. At the same time, there's no indication that the president himself is the target of any type of federal investigation into the same type of crimes that Paul Manafort has now been convicted of. After all, everything Paul Manafort was convicted of has to do with events that occurred prior to becoming the campaign chairman.
You know, John, as someone who's covered this stuff for years, and your background as an attorney, you take a look at the plea from Michael Cohen that this revives the Stormy Daniels story and everything else. Did you find it odd that he pled with the Southern District of New York and not the special prosecutor?
No, I didn't. And the reason being is because all of the activities that Mr. Cohen was accused of occurred in the Southern District of New York, in Manhattan. And I don't think that the special counsel views Michael Cohen as a credible witness for what they're trying to do. I don't think you'll ever see Michael Cohen take a deposition on behalf of the government in a possible case against the president, or take a sworn oath in a federal courtroom testifying against anyone on the president's campaign, just because he is so untrustworthy. After all, this past year, Kevin, he was telling a completely different story than the story that he told under oath in a federal courtroom yesterday in New York City.
John Decker joining us here. You've got the big tsunami of the coverage coming from this, and especially with the statement in Cohen's plea deal, John, where he's talking about that he did this at the benefit of the campaign and campaign's finance laws. But could there be a difference between a civil charge and a more credible criminal charge in this if this proceeds at all for the president?
Well, what it is that Michael Cohen has accused the president of doing, and it's just at this point his word against the president's, is something that the federal government has prosecuted in a criminal sense individuals for. Just think back to former senator, former presidential candidate John Edwards. He was also accused of violating campaign finance laws. There wasn't just a penalty that was slapped onto him in terms of a fine. They prosecuted him. Now, fortunately for Mr. Edwards, a jury could not come up with a guilty plea for him, and as a result, he is a free man, and there's no conviction on his record. But the federal government has not sort of looked the other way as it relates to campaign finance law violations like the one John Edwards was accused of, and what Michael Cohen is alleging that President Trump took part in during the 2016 campaign.
A sidebar to you, John Decker, on KIDO Talk Radio. I don't know if you had a chance to cover Edwards much. I did when I was in North Carolina and Raleigh at the time. You see people rise and fall, and having read Andrew Young's book on the whole Edwards campaign and everything else, hard to believe that was factual. It seemed like a work of fiction, balancing everything and how that whole thing turned out, considering at one time he appeared to be the heir apparent to not only the Democratic Party, but a possible president.
Well, yeah, that's right. If you think back to 2008, who came in second place in the Iowa caucuses? It wasn't Hillary Clinton. It was John Edwards. Hillary Clinton came in third, and behind Barack Obama. So, yes, he was at one point considered to be certainly a possible Democratic nominee for president, but it wasn't in the cards for him for a number of reasons. And I think, now politics is not in his future. He's gone back to the private sector, working as an attorney in North Carolina, his home state. And, these things sometimes happen. I think the same thing could be said about former senator, now deceased Ted Kennedy. At one point, he was the future of the Democratic Party and maybe a future president. And I'm not even talking about the time prior to Chappaquiddick. I'm even talking about, 1980 when he gave Jimmy Carter a run for the money for the Democratic nomination. But timing's everything in politics, and the timing just wasn't right for him during the course of his life in politics, and it clearly wasn't right for John Edwards either during his time in elective politics.
Okay, John Decker, a final thought from curmudgeon Kevin Miller here today. That's when I think those political figures seem like lions. And today, taking nothing away from everybody today, but, when you say invoke the name of Ted Kennedy and that run against Jimmy Carter, they just seem larger than life than they are today.
Yeah, I think that's true, but I also think that the news cycle, the way it is, has brought individuals back down to mortal levels, because we do see individuals a lot with 24-hour, 24/7 cable. And so back in the days when Ted Kennedy was contemplating runs and did run for president, it wasn't 24/7. It was 3 broadcast networks. And I think that as a result, there was this mystery associated with all of these, as you call them, giants in politics. And now there's no mystery for anybody anymore. It seems like we know everything about everybody in elective politics or those who are considering runs for higher office.
And finally, an attempt at humor here at KIDO Talk Radio with John Decker of Fox News Radio.
Okay.
I know who, according to the president, I shouldn't be looking for if I'm looking for an attorney, John.
You shouldn't be looking for Michael Cohen. I am a member of the D.C. bar, so if the president's looking for an attorney, all he needs to do is take a few steps outside the Oval Office, come down to the basement here at the White House, knock on my door, and I'll give him a really good hourly rate.
John, you have a great day, sir. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Our great friend John Decker joining us. Not only an incredible award-winning reporter, a professor, teaches journalism, but an attorney based on his years of reporting and working for the departed Senator Hines out of Pennsylvania. I agree. Though politicians seemed larger than life. And for the world we live in today, now, and especially to the children's listening right now, and I know it's children's, but humor me with this at 580-5436. You want to know what it was like, and you're going, no, please, I'm so tired of my grandfather. I'm so tired of Daddy and Mama telling me about how rough they had it when they only had 3 channels, or they had this thing called cable, or this thing called the VHS. You want to understand why people were so much bigger then, is because the access was limited. We didn't get to know the personal peccadillos of someone. But by the way, if you do want to read a good political book, that book by Andrew Young, not to be confused with the former mayor of Atlanta, Georgia, but the political guy. Really a brilliant read on the inner workings of the John Edwards campaign, how he was getting money from the gentleman who I think founded FedEx, Fred, I can't remember his last name. However, just the running across the country and hiding from folks and hiding it from his wife, the affair, and then the baby, and how it all blew up. A fascinating real-life political thriller. But it does beg the question, do we really need to know the habits of our politicians? So back to the point that if you want to know what it's like, you put on either Channel 2, Channel 6, or Channel 7. Those are your TV stations. No phone. Well, you can have the phone at the house. No answering machine. No anything else. That's what it was like without all this technology that has made our lives better. Coming up next, a disturbing story that the media is not covering, but you need to know about it here in Idaho. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
Just miles away from where 20-year-old Molly Tibbetts was last seen, her body was found Tuesday in Poweshiek County, where state investigators say 24-year-old Christian Rivera led them after admitting to stalking Tibbetts, kidnapping, and killing her.
He is an illegal alien, and first-degree murder carries a penalty of life without the possibility of parole.
Rick Ron with the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation says it was home surveillance video near where Tibbetts was jogging July 18th that captured a car and ultimately her alleged killer. Jeff Manosso, Fox News.
Yes, tell that to the folks that want the open borders, right? Tell that to them. We'll talk about it in a minute. First, Pro-Life joins us now on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Yep, that's the call letters of the best radio station in Idaho. Well, anyway, Venezuela, the people are dying, starving, and getting beaten up by their government. And I called both of our senators, congressmen, and asked them to make at least some kind of a statement publicly what they would like to see done. I think Congress needs to authorize the president to do something about it, and they need to discuss it. So that's about all I got to say. And, of course, we need to close the border down so that criminals like the guy that killed the woman in Iowa can't get in here. So,
well, what do you say to the bleeding hearts that say, well, everybody should come to America? I mean, there are documented cases. And this is where we get on dangerous ground here in the Treasure Valley.
Yeah.
Because we're the only ones that will tell you. We're the only ones that will tell you the truth, that are partnered with these national groups, whether it's our friend Maria, who lost a family member because you had someone here illegally, a criminal, who hurt her young person, killed their young person. And these are stories that are going on all throughout the country that are not being reported. You talk to local officials, and you'd be surprised how many folks here illegally are in our jails, overflowing them right now. And that's in Ada and Canyon County. And no one will cover it besides pro-life, Kevin Miller, Ray Amaya, and others that want the truth to come out.
Yeah, I know. Well, I used to live in Mexico, right south of California, and I know about that problem. It used to be easy to cross the border, and people would cross the border all the time and work in the United States.
You know what they're doing now? They're flying to Canada and then crossing the border.
Yep, and, well, I guess we're just going to have laws that say that you can't be employed, and the employers need to get big fines if they employ a illegal alien.
Really, it comes down to a few things. Now, do you agree with me about the drugs?
Yeah, I don't think drugs are good at all.
Look, if you want to solve our nation's drug problem, you want to solve our nation's immigration problem, this is all you have to do. Make E-Verify mandatory, no exceptions, and give everybody a drug test. You know, if you want to work in a paint store, you want to drive a truck, you've got to take a drug test. And I don't think that any other place should be exempt from that. You should be required to take a drug test. Now, forget about the test for high blood pressure, cholesterol. That hits too close to home to me. But you want to be serious about stopping these problems, that's what you do.
I agree. Yep. Well, you're pretty smart, Kevin.
Well, I don't know about that, but thank you. I just don't think that we're serious about solving these problems. We've got an incredible challenge ahead of turning the ship, because we've had Obama not only culturally contaminate our country for many, many years, but you have kids embracing socialism that they can't even spell the word socialism, number one. Number two, you've got all these pro-pot states that need to be told, that's enough. Stop now. Cease and desist.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's just like the Boise State baseball stadium kind of thing. You can't see any of the local politicians calling into you, making some kind of a public statement about what they want to do. They don't want to offend anybody, so they don't make any statement.
Well, then you have Boise State that has very powerful media partners.
Yeah.
And if you're partners with Boise State, like we were, you don't bite the hand that feeds you. And again, we believe in telling the truth. We believe in no fake news. We believe in laying it out there. It has been my experience that if you have an issue with Boise State, they act like the people that they fight against, the big money power programs. Why are they having trouble getting people going to their games? Because as soon as they were successful the last few years of Coach Pete, they raised the prices, and then you had to buy season tickets if you wanted to see Oregon and Oregon State. Now, that's not the case. And you heard Kevin Skidmore, a nice young man. Look, I'm not looking for trouble, but I'm not backing down. We heard about eminent domain in the paper. And then you have the slanted, progressive, fake news Idaho statesmen. And they are. They know they are. They are. They've made up stories about me and this station because we serve an interest contrary to theirs. So they interview them after they have a one-sided story, and they don't tell the truth. They don't let the guy speak. That's the beauty of what we do. We don't edit anything.
Yep. Well, eminent domain is only for real governmental purposes, maybe not even for education. But
well, it's certainly not for a baseball stadium.
Not for a baseball stadium.
That's not going to produce revenue. I don't know whose dream it was. Maybe it was. They're going to call it Dr. Custer Field, and good for Dr. Custer. But sooner or later, in pro-life, you've been humbled. I continue to be humbled, and I embrace that humility. It's easier said than done. But with humility, you get empathy. And I don't think that university has a lot for people that live and work here.
No, they don't. Well, hey.
I hope that they do. I hope that they do, because they have a lot of good people that really love that brand and support that brand. But they've got to figure out where they live.
Well, if I had more time, I'd take Christianity right down in the public square down there in Boise State. I got 12 big signs that show murdered babies, and I'd like to take them down there and have a big discussion.
Well, I wonder if that you would be allowed on campus, if that would be they'd have to put you in the free speech zone. Pro-life, God bless you, and thank you for listening, sir.
All right, we'll see you.
All right. Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. And I'm Kevin Miller. Don't forget, next week it's back, and it's free. The Spirit of Boise Balloon Classic, brought to you by our friends at CapEd Credit Union. You don't want to miss it. It is free. It begins a week from today. Please be careful with the kiddos in school, or like we like to call them, the KIDOs. Great job, Rami, as always. If you miss anything, podcast at KIDOTalkRadio.com if you want to hear Dinesh D'Souza. God bless and keep the faith.